The night Elena Moore's perfectly controlled life shattered wasn't supposed to matter. She was a billionaire, untouchable, unstoppable. But when her date never showed, when an entire cafe watched her sit alone like a discarded thought, she realized money couldn't buy dignity. What happened next defied everything she knew about power, about worth, about being seen. A stranger and his 6-year-old daughter would offer her something no boardroom ever had: simple human kindness. And that single act of compassion would unravel every wall she'd built, every lie she'd told herself, and change 3 lives forever. Stay with me until the end. Hit that like button and comment your city so I can see how far this story travels. The reservation had been made 3 weeks ago. Table 12, 7:30. Window seat overlooking the city lights that glittered like scattered diamonds across the downtown skyline. Elena Moore had confirmed it twice. Once with her assistant, once personally. She wasn't the type to leave things to chance. Control was her language, precision her religion. In the world of high-stakes acquisitions and billion-dollar negotiations, there was no room for variables. Yet here she sat, alone, watching the second hand of her Patek Philippe crawl past the 45-minute mark. The café, La Lumière, one of those carefully curated spaces where minimalist design met astronomical prices, had fallen into that peculiar rhythm of polite discomfort. Conversations at nearby tables had acquired a strained quality, voices pitched just slightly too loud, laughter just slightly too bright. Everyone pretending not to notice the woman in the Valentino dress who kept glancing at the entrance, then at her phone, then back at the entrance with decreasing hope and increasing humiliation. Elena's fingers traced the stem of her untouched wine glass. Chateau Margaux, 2015, $280. She'd ordered it to appear occupied, purposeful. Now it sat there like evidence of her foolishness, deep red and mocking. "Ma'am?" The server appeared at her elbow, young and earnest with that particular brand of apologetic concern that made everything worse. "Can I get you anything else? Perhaps an appetizer while you wait?" The pause before wait was infinitesimal but devastating. "No. Thank you." Elena's voice came out smooth, controlled. Years of boardroom poker faces served her well. "Just the check, please." Of course. Relief flooded his features. He'd been assigned to her table for over an hour now, watching his tips from other tables evaporate while she occupied premium real estate with a single glass of wine. "Right away." As he retreated, Elena allowed herself one glance around the room. Big mistake. At table 7, 2 women in their 30s leaned close, whispering behind raised menus. Their eyes flicked toward Elena, then away. At table 3, an older couple sat in studied silence, the woman's gaze lingering with something that looked uncomfortably like pity. Near the bar, a group of 20-somethings had abandoned all pretense of subtlety. One of them actually pointed before her friend slapped her hand down. Elena felt the heat creep up her neck despite the cafe's aggressive air conditioning. She was Elena Moore, CEO of Meridian Holdings, the woman who'd turned a failing tech startup into a multinational empire worth $8 billion. Forbes had called her ruthless. Fortune had dubbed her the woman who never blinks. She'd stared down hostile boardrooms, dismantled corporate dynasties, and rebuilt struggling companies with surgical precision. She did not get stood up. She did not sit alone in public restaurants like some tragic figure from a cautionary tale about career women who prioritized ambition over relationships. Except apparently, she did. Her phone sat face up on the table, screen dark and accusatory. She'd stopped checking it 10 minutes ago after the bartender had caught her refreshing her messages for the 3rd time in as many minutes. No text from Marcus, no call, no cutesy running late message with an apologetic emoji. Just silence, which somehow shouted louder than any excuse could have. They'd met at a charity gala 3 months ago. Marcus Holloway, venture capitalist, Yale graduate, possessed of that effortless charm that came from generations of old money and older privilege. He'd approached her at the open bar with a Manhattan in each hand and a smile that suggested he was used to getting what he wanted. "Elena Moore," he'd said, offering her one of the drinks. "I've been trying to get a meeting with you for 6 months. Your assistant is terrifyingly efficient at deflection. She'd taken the Manhattan, amused despite herself. Sarah's paid to be terrifying. Well, since ambushing you at a charity event is apparently my only option, he'd clinked his glass against hers. Marcus Holloway. And before you run a background check, yes, I'm the one who tried to hostile take over Brennan Tech last year. I know exactly who you are, Mr. Holloway. I outbid you on that acquisition. She'd sipped her drink, maintaining eye contact. Paid $20 million more than you offered. And turned it around for a 300% profit in 18 months. His smile had widened. I'm not here to talk business, Ms. Moore. I'm here because you're the most fascinating woman in this room, and I'd very much like to have dinner with you sometime. It had been smooth, confident, the kind of approach that worked because it was refreshingly direct. Elena had dated sporadically over the years, brief, controlled encounters that fit neatly into her calendar between board meetings and international flights. Nothing serious, nothing that required vulnerability or compromise or the surrender of control. Marcus had seemed manageable, equally ambitious, equally guarded, someone who understood that dinner meant dinner, that calls would be returned when schedules permitted, that feelings were negotiations rather than wild cards. 3 months of carefully orchestrated dates, museum openings, theater premieres, one weekend in Napa that had been pleasant if not particularly memorable. He'd never pushed for more than she offered, never demanded access to the parts of herself she kept locked away. It had been comfortable. Comfortable until tonight, until he'd simply not shown up. The check arrived in a leather portfolio, discreet and expensive. Elena pulled out her black Amex without looking at the total, signed with the quick slash that had authorized billion-dollar deals, and stood with the careful grace of someone very aware they were being watched. The walk to the exit felt like miles. Her heels clicked against the polished concrete floor, click, 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 each step a small announcement of her retreat. She kept her spine straight, her chin level, her expression neutral. The performance of dignity even as it crumbled beneath her like rotten floorboards. She'd almost made it to the door when her phone buzzed. Elena stopped, against every instinct screaming at her to keep moving, to get out, to escape the fishbowl observation of this damn cafe. She stopped and looked at the screen. Marcus. Sorry, can't make it tonight. Something came up. That was it. No explanation. No apology beyond the bare minimum. No acknowledgement that he'd left her sitting alone for nearly an hour in one of the city's most visible restaurants. Her thumb hovered over the keyboard. 1,000 responses crowded her mind, each one sharp enough to draw blood. But what was the point? What would it prove? That she cared? That she'd been hurt? That she'd actually allowed herself to be vulnerable enough to be wounded by his casual dismissal? Elena pocketed her phone without responding and pushed through the door into the cool October evening. The city stretched before her, indifferent and alive. Traffic hummed past in streams of white and red light. Pedestrians hurried by with their own destinations, their own dramas, their own private disappointments. The world kept turning, utterly unconcerned that Elena Moore had just experienced what was probably the most publicly humiliating moment of her adult life. She should call her driver. The car was parked 3 blocks away. She'd wanted to walk to the restaurant, had thought the evening air might calm her unexpected nerves about this date. Now the walk back felt insurmountable. But calling Marcus, that was his name, Marcus, she had to remember that, calling him would mean explaining why she needed the car early, would mean admitting that something hadn't gone according to plan, would mean revealing a crack in the perfect facade she maintained even with her staff. Elena started walking. The October air bit through her dress despite the unseasonable warmth of the day. She'd chosen the Valentino specifically for tonight. Deep emerald silk that Marcus had once mentioned brought out her eyes. The thought made her stomach turn now. She'd dressed to please him, had actually stood in her walk-in closet that morning, holding up options like a teenager preparing for prom. How had she let herself become this? Her phone buzzed again. For one absurd moment, her heart leaped. Maybe Marcus was calling. Maybe there was an actual emergency. Maybe Sarah. Meeting prep for tomorrow's board session is in your inbox. Jenkins is going to push back on the Taipei expansion. I've drafted counter-arguments. Right. Tomorrow. The board meeting she'd been preparing for all week. The one where she'd have to defend her vision for international growth against a group of men who still called her sweetheart when they thought she wasn't listening. Elena stopped at a crosswalk, watching the red hand blink its warning. Around her, couples strolled hand in hand. A group of friends spilled out of a bar, laughing at some shared joke. An elderly man held a door open for his wife, their movements synchronized by decades of partnership. She'd never had that. Had never wanted it, she'd told herself. Relationships were liabilities. Love was a distraction. She'd watched too many talented women derail their careers for marriages that ended in divorce and custody battles. Had seen brilliant minds reduced to so-and-so's wife at industry events. Elena had chosen differently, had built an empire instead of a family, had conquered markets instead of settling into domestic comfort. And tonight, standing alone on a street corner in a dress that cost more than most people's monthly rent, she couldn't quite remember why that had seemed like such a triumph. The light changed. She crossed with the crowd, her heels clicking a lonely rhythm against the pavement. 2 blocks from her car, Elena passed a small cafe she'd never noticed before. The sign read, "Common Grounds," in simple script, warm light spilling from its windows onto the sidewalk. Through the glass, she could see mismatched furniture, local art on exposed brick walls, the kind of place that probably served coffee in ceramic mugs instead of paper cups. On impulse, and Elena Moore did not do impulse, she pushed open the door. The interior was warm without being stuffy, busy without being chaotic. A couple shared a slice of cake at a corner table. A college student typed furiously on a laptop, surrounded by textbooks and energy drink cans. A woman in medical scrubs sat alone with a book and what looked like herbal tea. No one looked up when Elena entered. No one noticed her dress or her jewelry or the fact that she was Elena Moore, billionaire CEO, recently and publicly humiliated. She was just another customer. The relief was so acute it hurt. "Welcome to Common Grounds." The barista, a young man with impressive arm tattoos and an even more impressive beard, grinned at her from behind the counter. "What can I get you?" Elena approached the counter, realizing she had no idea what to order. She didn't drink coffee this late. It interfered with sleep, and she needed exactly 7 hours to function optimally. She didn't eat sugar, empty calories, no nutritional value. She hadn't eaten in a cafe like this since... Actually, she couldn't remember ever eating in a cafe like this. She looked at the chalkboard menu, words blurring together. Lattes, mochas, seasonal specials, pastries with whimsical names. "What do you recommend?" "Long day?" The barista asked it casually, but something in his tone suggested he saw more than she wanted to show. "You could say that." "Then you want the common comfort, hot chocolate made with real melted chocolate, not powder, topped with homemade whipped cream and a sprinkle of cinnamon. It's what I make myself when the world feels like too much." Elena almost said no, almost ordered something sensible like chamomile tea or sparkling water. But something about the kindness in his eyes, the complete absence of judgment, made her nod instead. "That sounds perfect." "Excellent choice. Grab a seat anywhere. I'll bring it out." Elena found herself drawn to a worn leather armchair near the back, positioned where she could see the whole cafe, but partially hidden by a bookshelf stuffed with dog-eared paperbacks and board games. She sank into the chair, felt it embrace her like an old friend. Her phone buzzed. She ignored it. The cafe hummed with quiet life. Someone laughed. A page turned. The espresso machine hissed and gurgled. Normal sounds, human sounds. The kind of ambient noise that usually irritated her in coffee shops where she occasionally took calls between meetings. Tonight, it felt like sanctuary. The barista appeared with her hot chocolate, setting it on the small table beside her chair. The mug was large and handmade, slightly lopsided, glazed in deep blue with stars swirled through the ceramic. The whipped cream peaked generously, dusted with cinnamon that smelled like comfort and childhood and everything she'd sacrificed in her climb to the top. "Take your time," he said softly. "We're open until midnight." "Thank you," Elena managed, and meant it more than he could possibly know. She wrapped both hands around the mug, letting the warmth seep into her palms. Through the window, she could see her reflection. Elegant, composed, successful. Everything she'd worked for. Everything she'd become. So why did she feel so utterly empty? The hot chocolate was perfect, rich and sweet and completely unnecessary. She drank it slowly, each sip a small rebellion against the disciplined life she'd constructed. No one was watching. No one cared. She could sit here in this mismatched chair with this imperfect mug and just be. The bell over the door chimed. Elena looked up without meaning to, some part of her still conditioned to assess every environment, every entrance, every potential threat or opportunity. A man walked in, mid-30s, wearing jeans and a button-down that had seen better days. Dark hair that needed cutting, tired eyes, shoulders that carried weight beyond the backpack slung over one arm. He held the door open, looking back at someone still outside. "Come on, sweetheart. You promised you'd be good if we stopped for hot chocolate." A little girl bounded through the door, all energy and enthusiasm, and untamed curls pulled into lopsided pigtails. She couldn't have been more than 6, wearing a purple jacket covered in stickers and light-up sneakers that flashed with every step. "I am being good, Daddy. I was good at the library, and I was good at the grocery store, and I was super good at that boring meeting you had to take." She punctuated each claim with a hop, her sneakers creating a small light show. "You're right, Lily Bean. You were very patient." The man's voice was warm with exhaustion and affection. He guided her toward the counter with one hand on her shoulder. "What do you say we share a cookie, too?" "Chocolate chip, chocolate chip." Lily's voice could have shattered glass. Several customers looked up, smiling. The kind of indulgent smiles reserved for children who hadn't yet learned that the world expected quiet. Elena watched them from her corner, something twisting in her chest. The easy affection between father and daughter. The way he crouched to her level to discuss cookie options seriously, as if her opinion mattered. The way she grabbed his hand while they waited, swinging it back and forth, trusting completely in his presence. This was what she'd missed. This is what her choices had cost. No. She shut down that thought immediately. She'd made her decisions with full awareness, had chosen career over family, ambition over sentiment, had built something that would outlast her, that employed thousands, that changed industries. One little girl in light-up sneakers didn't change the calculus. The barista greeted them with familiar warmth. "Daniel, Lily," the usual. "2 hot chocolates and your biggest chocolate chip cookie," Daniel confirmed, pulling out a worn wallet. "It's been a long day." "For me too," Lily added. "I had to sit through so much adult talking." "The horror," the barista said solemnly, making her giggle. While they waited, Lily explored the cafe with the fearless curiosity of childhood. She examined the board games, traced the spines of books, peered into the display case at pastries with the intensity of a jewel appraiser. And then, inevitably, she noticed Elena. Their eyes met across the cafe. Elena saw the girl's expression shift. Curiosity, assessment, something that looked almost like concern. Before Daniel could stop her, Lily was walking over. "Hi," she said, stopping a respectful few feet from Elena's chair. "Are you sad?" The question hit Elena like a physical blow. What? You look sad. Like when Daddy gets sad sometimes late at night when he thinks I'm sleeping." Lily tilted her head, pigtails swaying. "Are you alone?" "Lily!" Daniel appeared, mortification written across his face. "I'm so sorry. She doesn't..." "Lily, we talked about giving people privacy." "But nobody should be alone when they're sad," Lily said with the absolute certainty of someone who'd never learned to doubt her instincts. "That's what you said when Mrs. Chen's husband died. You said nobody should be alone." Daniel's face flushed. "That's different. This is..." "Lily, come on." But Elena found herself speaking before she could stop herself. "It's okay. She's not wrong." The admission surprised all three of them. Daniel met her eyes, and Elena saw recognition there. Not of who she was certain he had no idea about Meridian Holdings or Forbes lists, but recognition of something deeper. The specific exhaustion of someone who'd been holding themselves together for too long. "I really am sorry," he said quietly. "Long day, and she hasn't quite mastered the art of filtering thoughts yet." "Few people have," Elena replied. "It's actually refreshing." Lily beamed, clearly taking this as permission to continue. "Do you want to sit with us? We're having hot chocolate and a cookie. Daddy always shares even though I eat most of it." Lily, "It's okay," Elena said again, surprising herself more with each word.
I wouldn't want to intrude on your evening. You wouldn't be truding, Lily assured her. We're just going to sit and talk, and maybe Daddy will help me with my homework, even though it's Friday and Miss Peterson says homework on Friday is cruel and unusual punishment. Despite everything, the humiliation at La Lumiere, Marcus's dismissive text, the weight of her own loneliness, Elena felt something that might have been a smile trying to break through. Lily, that's enough, Daniel said, but his tone was gentle.
He looked at Elena, and she saw him weighing whether to explain, to apologize more, to simply retreat with his daughter to their own table. Instead, he said, "The offer's genuine if you'd like company. No pressure." And Elena Moore, who controlled boardrooms and commanded respect from some of the most powerful people in the world, who never showed weakness and never accepted help and never, ever deviated from her carefully constructed plans, found herself nodding. "I'd like that," she said quietly. "Thank you." Lily's face lit up like her sneakers. "Yes! This is going to be the best Friday night!" Daniel shook his head, but he was smiling. "I'll grab our drinks. Lily, stay with... I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name?" "Elena," she said, and left it at that. Just Elena. Not Elena Moore, CEO. Not the billionaire or the ice queen or the woman who never blinks. Just Elena, who'd been stood up and found herself in a cafe accepting hot chocolate from a stranger and his daughter. "I'm Lily Elizabeth Hayes, and I'm 6 3/4, Lily announced, settling into the chair next to Elena's as if they'd been friends for years. "What's your favorite color?" And as Daniel returned with drinks and an enormous cookie, as Lily chattered about her day with the unself-conscious joy of childhood, as the cafe continued its quiet rhythm around them, Elena felt something she hadn't felt in years. She felt seen, not as a CEO or a success story or a cautionary tale, not as the woman in the expensive dress who'd been publicly humiliated, not as anything except a person who'd looked sad and been offered simple kindness. The hot chocolate was still perfect. The chair was still worn and comfortable, but now there was laughter mixing with the cinnamon-scented air, and a little girl's voice asking questions about everything and nothing, and a father's tired eyes that held understanding without judgment. Elena wrapped her hands around her mug and listened to Lily explain the complex social dynamics of first-grade lunch tables, and felt something inside her chest that had been clenched tight for years begin, very slowly, to unfold. The night she'd thought couldn't get worse had become something else entirely. It had become the night everything changed. The cookie lasted exactly 7 minutes before Lily had devoured her half and started eyeing Daniel's portion with the focused intensity of a hawk spotting prey. Lily being, "We talked about this," Daniel said without looking up from where he was helping her sound out words in her reading homework. "You picked the bigger half. That means this piece is mine." "But Daddy, you're not even eating it. You're just letting it sit there, getting lonely." Elena watched this negotiation unfold with fascination. In her world, negotiations involved lawyers and contracts and leverage. Here, it involved a 6-year-old's creative interpretation of fairness and a father too tired to mount a proper defense. "The cookie is not lonely," Daniel said, but Elena could hear the smile in his voice. "The cookie is resting. Cookies don't need rest. They need to be eaten. It's their purpose." Lily looked to Elena for support. "Right, Elena? Don't cookies want to be eaten?" It was the first time someone had asked Elena's opinion on something so delightfully absurd in longer than she could remember. Board meetings didn't cover cookie philosophy. "I think," Elena said carefully, "that your father might be saving it for later, when he's hungry after he's finished helping you with your homework." Lily considered this, her small face serious. "That's actually very smart planning. Miss Peterson says planning ahead is important." She looked at Daniel. "Okay, Daddy, you can keep your cookie, but I'm going to remind you to eat it so it doesn't go to waste." "Thank you for your concern about cookie welfare," Daniel said dryly. Elena found herself smiling, a real smile, not the practiced expression she deployed at networking events. When was the last time she'd smiled like this? When had her face last moved into this expression without conscious effort? "So Elena," Lily said, abandoning her homework entirely to focus on her new friend, "what do you do, like for your job?" The question should have been simple. Elena had an elevator pitch perfected through thousands of introductions. But sitting here in this worn chair with hot chocolate and the remnants of shared cookies, her carefully crafted professional identity felt wrong somehow. Too big. Too impersonal. I work with companies, she said finally. Help them grow and succeed. Like a teacher? Something like that, yes. My daddy works really hard, Lily announced proudly. He does numbers and computer stuff for lots of different people. Sometimes he has to work late at night after I go to bed. Daniel's ears reddened slightly. Lily, I don't think Elena needs to hear about... It's okay, Elena said quickly. She looked at Daniel, really looked at him for the first time. The worn quality of his clothes wasn't carelessness, it was necessity. The exhaustion in his eyes wasn't just from a long day, but from many long days strung together. The backpack he'd carried in probably held both his laptop and Lily's school supplies, because there was no separation between work and parenting, no assistant to manage logistics, no driver waiting to whisk them from commitment to commitment. She recognized that exhaustion because she'd seen it in mirrors during her own climb-up, back when she'd been scrambling for every opportunity, working 3 jobs to put herself through business school, sleeping 4 hours a night because rest was a luxury she couldn't afford. She'd just forgotten what it looked like from the outside. What kind of computer work do you do? Elena asked. Daniel hesitated, clearly uncomfortable. Freelance bookkeeping, mostly. Small business accounting, tax preparation, some consulting. Nothing particularly exciting. Daddy's being modest, Lily interjected. Mrs. Chen says he saved her restaurant. She gives us free dumplings now every Sunday. Lily, that's because Mrs. Chen is generous, not because... She said you saved her restaurant, Lily insisted with the stubborn certainty of truth. I heard her tell Mr. Kim at the grocery store. She said you found where the money was going wrong and fixed it before the bank could take her building. Daniel looked like he wanted the floor to open up and swallow him. I just helped her organize her books better. Anyone could have... Not anyone, Elena said quietly. Small businesses fail all the time because they don't have access to good financial guidance. If you helped her avoid that, you probably did save her restaurant. Daniel met her eyes, and she saw surprise there, as if he hadn't expected her to understand, to take him seriously. It's honest work, he said simply, and it lets me be there for Lily. That's what matters. The statement was so contrary to everything Elena's world valued that it took her a moment to process. In her circles, work was status, career was identity. Success was measured in titles and acquisitions and the ability to afford things that announced your worth to the world. But Daniel said honest work like it meant something, like being there for his daughter was the achievement, and everything else was just logistics. Do you have kids, Elena? Lily asked, swinging her legs so her light-up sneakers created a rhythmic flash pattern. The question landed like a stone in still water, ripples spreading outward. No, Elena said. No, I don't. Do you want them? Lily, Daniel warned, that's a very personal question. But we're friends now, Lily said with flawless 6-year-old logic. Friends ask personal questions. That's how you learn about people. Elena should have deflected, should have changed the subject with the skills she'd honed through countless uncomfortable conversations with board members who thought her biological clock was appropriate meeting fodder. Instead, she heard herself say, I used to think I didn't. I thought I was too busy, too focused on my career. But lately, she paused, surprised by her own honesty. Lately, I'm not sure what I think anymore. Lily absorbed this with the seriousness of a philosopher. That's okay. Daddy says it's okay to change your mind about stuff. He used to think he didn't like mushrooms, but now he eats them in Mrs. Chen's dumplings. That's not quite the same thing, sweetheart, Daniel said, but he was looking at Elena with something that might have been understanding. Why not? Changing your mind is changing your mind. Lily returned her attention to Elena. If you did have kids, I bet you'd be really good at it. You're a good listener. That's important. The compliment, delivered with such casual sincerity, hit harder than any professional accolade Elena had ever received. She'd been called brilliant, ruthless, visionary, intimidating, but when was the last time someone had called her a good listener? Thank you, Lily. That's very kind. I'm not being kind, I'm being honest. Daddy says there's a difference. Lily pulled a battered coloring book from her backpack. Do you want to color with me? I brought extra crayons. Before Elena could formulate a response, a box of crayons appeared on the table. The big box, 64 colors with the built-in sharpener, slightly worn but clearly treasured. Lily, Elena might not want to. I'd love to, Elena said, and meant it. Lily's face transformed into pure joy. She flipped open the coloring book to a page showing an elaborate castle surrounded by gardens. You can do the flowers and I'll do the castle. We'll make it beautiful. Elena accepted the crayons Lily pushed toward her, periwinkle, magenta, forest green, and found herself coloring for the first time in probably 30 years. Her technique was rusty, her color choices questionable, but Lily praised every stroke like she was creating a masterpiece. That's a really good rose, Lily said seriously, examining Elena's decidedly lopsided flower. I like how you made it pink and red. That's creative thinking. Daniel watched them color, his expression unreadable. He should have been working, Elena realized. Should have been using this time while Lily was occupied to tackle the laptop she could see peeking from his backpack. But instead, he was sitting here, sipping his hot chocolate, watching his daughter befriend a stranger. How long have you been doing this? Elena asked, gesturing vaguely at the cafe, the homework, the careful juggling act she was witnessing. The freelance work while raising Lily? Something shifted in Daniel's expression. About 3 years since my wife... He paused, glancing at Lily, who was fully absorbed in coloring her castle turrets purple. Since it became just the two of us. Elena understood what he wasn't saying. The grief that lived in that pause. The reorganization of an entire life around loss. I'm sorry, she said quietly. Thank you. Daniel's hands wrapped around his mug, much like Elena's had earlier. The same seeking of warmth, of comfort, of something solid to hold on to. It was sudden, an aneurysm. One day she was there, the next... He shook his head. Lily was only 3. She doesn't remember as much as I wish she did. I remember some stuff, Lily said without looking up from her coloring. I remember Mommy smelled like vanilla and she sang me the song about the mockingbird. Daniel's throat worked. Yeah, baby, she did. Elena felt like an intruder on this moment of intimate grief, but when she started to excuse herself, Daniel shook his head slightly. It's okay, he said. We talk about her. It's healthy. That's what the grief counselor said anyway. A wry smile touched his lips. Though Lily's approach to processing is sometimes unconventional. I made a memory box, Lily explained to Elena, still coloring. It has Mommy's scarf and pictures and the seashell we found at the beach that one time. Whenever I miss her, I can look at the box. It helps. The matter-of-fact way she said it broke something in Elena's chest. This little girl had experienced devastating loss and somehow emerged with the emotional intelligence to articulate healthy coping mechanisms, while Elena, who'd lived 42 years without comparable tragedy, was still struggling to process being stood up for a dinner date. The comparison made her feel petty and small. That sounds like a wonderful memory box, Elena said. You can come see it sometime if you want. We live in the apartments on Maple Street, the ones with the red doors. Oh, Lily, you can't just invite people over. Why not? You invite people over sometimes. Mr. Peterson came to fix the sink last month and you gave him coffee. Mr. Peterson is the building superintendent. That's different. How? Daniel looked at Elena helplessly. She found herself fighting a smile. Your daddy's right that you should be careful about inviting people you've just met to your home, Elena said gently. But I appreciate the invitation. Lily considered this. Okay, but if we become better friends, then you can come over. Deal? Deal. They colored in companionable silence for several minutes. The cafe had emptied somewhat, the Friday night crowd thinning as people headed to livelier venues. The barista was wiping down tables, but he didn't seem rushed, didn't give any indication that he was eager for them to leave. Elena found the repetitive motion of coloring meditative. Fill in this petal, choose a new color. Fill in the next. No strategic thinking required, no three-dimensional chess, just the simple act of making something slightly more beautiful than it had been before. Can I ask you something? Daniel's voice pulled her back. Of course. What happened tonight? Before you came here? He raised a hand quickly. You don't have to answer, and I'm not trying to pry. But Lily was right. you did look sad when we came in, and I know what it's like to have a day that breaks you down. Sometimes it helps to talk about it. Elena's first instinct was to deflect, to offer some sanitized version that protected her privacy and dignity. But something about this man who'd lost his wife and rebuilt his life around his daughter, who worked himself to exhaustion doing honest work so he could be present for bedtime stories and homework help, made her want to be honest. I was supposed to have a date tonight, she said, at a much fancier restaurant than this. He never showed. Didn't even have the courtesy to cancel until I'd been sitting there alone for 45 minutes.
Lily's crayon stopped mid-stroke. That's really mean. It wasn't very kind, Elena agreed. Did you like him, the man who was supposed to come? Elena considered the question. Had she liked Marcus? Or had she liked the idea of him, successful, appropriate, fitting neatly into the boxes her life required? I thought I did, she said honestly. But I think maybe I liked the idea of not being alone more than I liked him specifically. Being alone isn't always bad, Lily said with the wisdom of someone who'd clearly heard this message repeated by caring adults. Daddy says sometimes you need alone time to think and feel your feelings. But being lonely is different. That's when you want to be with people, but you can't. Your daughter is very wise, Elena said to Daniel. She has her moments. He smiled at Lily with such obvious love that Elena felt it like a physical ache. Usually right before she does something that gives me gray hair, but yes, sometimes she's profound. I'm sitting right here, Lily said. I can hear you talking about me. We're saying nice things. Still weird to talk about someone when they're right there. But Lily was grinning. Elena's phone buzzed on the table. She glanced at it reflexively. Another message from Marcus. Marcus. Look, I should have handled tonight better. Can we talk? Too little, too late. And suddenly, Elena realized she didn't care. This man who'd seemed so perfect on paper, so suitable for her carefully managed life, had revealed himself to be exactly what she'd feared most, just another person who saw her as a convenience rather than a person. She turned the phone face down without responding. Not important? Daniel asked. Not anymore. They stayed at Common Grounds for another hour. Lily finished coloring the castle and started on a dragon, consulting Elena seriously about whether dragons should have green or blue scales. Daniel pulled out his laptop and worked through some spreadsheets while simultaneously helping Lily with a math worksheet about counting by tens. Elena watched him multitask with the fluid ease of long practice, explaining addition to his daughter while his fingers flew across the keyboard, somehow giving both tasks his full attention. She thought about her own work, the single-minded focus she'd always considered essential. Could she have done both? Could anyone? But Daniel was doing it. Right here, right now, building a business and raising a child without the army of support staff Elena had at her disposal. Daddy, I'm tired, Lily announced around 9:30, rubbing her eyes with crayon-stained fingers. I know, sweetheart. Let's pack up. Elena helped gather the scattered crayons while Daniel packed his laptop. Lily clutched her coloring book to her chest, careful not to smudge her artwork. Elena, can I ask you something? Lily said as they prepared to leave. Will you come to my school next week? We're doing Read Aloud Week, and everyone's supposed to bring a grown-up to read their favorite book. Daddy's coming, but he has to work that afternoon, and I thought maybe... She looked suddenly shy. Maybe you could come too, if you're not too busy. Elena felt Daniel's surprise, saw him about to intervene, to give her an out, but she found herself saying, What day? Thursday, at 10 in the morning. My class is room 7 at Jefferson Elementary. Elena's mind raced through her calendar. Thursday morning, she had a conference call with the Tokyo office, followed by a meeting with her legal team about the Brennan acquisition. Both could be rescheduled. Both had been rescheduled before for far less important reasons. I'd be honored, she said. Lily's face split into a smile that could have powered the entire city. Really? You promise? I promise. Pinky promise? Lily held up her small finger, completely serious. Elena hooked her pinky with Lily's, feeling the absurdity and beauty of the gesture. When was the last time she'd made a pinky promise? Had she ever? Pinky promise, she confirmed. Daniel walked them outside, Lily between them holding both their hands and skipping so her sneakers flashed in the darkness.
The October air had turned properly cold, carrying the scent of coming winter. "You really don't have to come Thursday," Daniel said quietly, while Lily was distracted by a dog across the street. She gets enthusiastic and forgets that other people have lives and responsibilities. "I want to come," Elena said, and realized it was true. "Unless you'd rather I didn't?" "No, it's not that. You seem like someone important, someone with important places to be." If he only knew. But Elena found she didn't want to tell him. Didn't want to see his expression change when he learned she was Elena Moore, that her face had been on the cover of magazines, that she could buy this entire block of cafes and apartments without noticing the dent in her bank account. Right now, she was just Elena. Someone who'd had a bad night and found unexpected kindness. Someone who'd colored flowers with a 6-year-old and made a pinky promise. She wanted to stay just Elena a little longer. "We all have places to be," she said instead. "Sometimes the important ones are the ones we don't expect." Daniel studied her face in the streetlight, and Elena had the unsettling feeling he saw more than she wanted to show. But he just nodded. "Thank you," he said, "for being kind to her, to us. It's been a while since—" He trailed off, shook his head. "Just thank you." "Thank you," Elena countered. "You have no idea what tonight meant to me." They stood there on the sidewalk, two strangers who'd shared hot chocolate and honesty, while Lily danced around them narrating the dog's adventures across the street. "I should get her home," Daniel said finally. "School morning comes early." "Of course." Elena watched them walk away, Lily's sneakers flashing with each step, Daniel's hand gentle on her shoulder. At the corner, Lily turned back and waved frantically. Elena waved back, feeling something in her chest that might have been joy, or might have been grief, or might have been both things at once. Her phone buzzed again. Marcus, probably, or Sarah with more work that couldn't wait, or any of the dozen fires that required her attention, her decision, her life force. Elena didn't look at it. Instead, she walked the 3 blocks to where Marcus waited with her car, and she thought about pinky promises and memory boxes and the way a child's uncomplicated friendship could feel like salvation. "Miss Moore," Marcus greeted her, opening the door. If he was surprised she was later than planned or arriving from the wrong direction, he didn't show it. That was what made him an excellent driver. "Home?" Elena paused with one foot in the car, looking back at the cafe where warm light still spilled onto the pavement. Through the window, she could see the barista closing up, moving through his end-of-night routine with practiced ease. "Yes," she said. "Home." The penthouse was exactly as she'd left it. Immaculate, expensive, empty. Elena walked through rooms that could have been featured in architectural magazines, past art that cost more than most people earned in a year, to the wall of windows that offered a view of the cities she'd conquered. Somewhere out there, in an apartment with red doors on Maple Street, Daniel was probably tucking Lily into bed, reading her a story, kissing her forehead, promising that tomorrow would be better than today. And for the first time in years, Elena wondered if she'd won the wrong war. Her phone sat on the marble counter, screen bright with notifications. Work. Always work. The machine that required constant feeding, constant attention, constant sacrifice. But Thursday morning, she thought. Thursday morning, she had a pinky promise to keep. Elena picked up her phone and opened her calendar. The conference call with Tokyo was marked as critical. The legal meeting had been scheduled for weeks. She moved them both. Then she scrolled back through her messages until she found Marcus's texts. 3 of them now. Increasingly apologetic, increasingly desperate. She typed a single response. "We're done. Please don't contact me again." Then she blocked his number. It felt like cutting a rope she hadn't known was strangling her. Elena poured herself a glass of wine, something rare and expensive from her temperature-controlled collection, and carried it to the window. The city glittered below, indifferent to her small epiphanies. She thought about Lily's question. "Do you want kids?" The honest answer was she didn't know. Had trained herself not to think about it, had convinced herself the question was irrelevant to the life she'd chosen. But tonight, coloring castle flowers with periwinkle crayons while a 6-year-old provided artistic direction, Elena had felt something she'd thought she'd successfully excised. The longing for connection that had nothing to do with networking or strategy. Her phone rang.
Sarah, probably, with some crisis that couldn't wait until Monday. Elena sent it to voicemail. The wine was perfect, of course. Everything in her life was perfect. Perfectly empty. Perfectly controlled. Perfectly, devastatingly lonely. She raised her glass to her reflection in the window. Successful, powerful, alone. To pinky promises, she said to the empty room, and drank to the taste of change. Thursday morning arrived wrapped in autumn sunshine that turned the city gold. Elena stood in front of her closet at 6:30, staring at rows of designer suits and dresses that suddenly felt like costumes for a role she was tired of playing. What did one wear to read to first graders? The Armani would intimidate. The Chanel would seem like she was trying too hard. Everything she owned screamed money and power and careful calculation. Nothing said, "I'm just here to share a story with children." Finally, she pulled out a cream cashmere sweater she'd bought on impulse 2 years ago and never worn. Too soft, too casual, too unlike the armor she typically deployed. She paired it with dark jeans that still had the tags on, and simple flats instead of her usual heels. In the mirror, she looked like a stranger. Approachable. Almost ordinary. Sarah called at 7:15, surprise evident in her voice when Elena answered on the second ring. "Ms. Moore, I have the revised contracts for the Brennan acquisition. Should I messenger them to your office, or—" "I won't be in the office until noon," Elena interrupted, applying makeup with a lighter hand than usual. "Send them to my email. I'll review them this afternoon." Silence. Sarah had worked for Elena for 6 years and had never heard her delay anything related to an active acquisition. "Is everything all right?" Sarah asked carefully. "Everything's fine. I have a personal commitment this morning." More silence. This one shocked. Elena Moore didn't have personal commitments. She had strategic networking breakfasts and carefully orchestrated social obligations, but nothing that would be described as personal. "Of course," Sarah said, recovering her professional composure. "I'll reschedule the morning briefing. Should I block out your calendar for the rest of the week, in case—" "Just this morning, Sarah. I'll be back by noon." After she hung up, Elena looked at herself in the mirror again. Her phone sat on the counter, already accumulating messages. The pull of work was strong, familiar, safe. She could call Sarah back, cancel this ridiculous field trip to an elementary school, return to the life that made sense. Instead, she picked up the children's book she'd bought yesterday after work, a beautiful illustrated edition of The Wild Robot that the bookstore owner had recommended for 6-year-olds. The clerk had looked at her strangely when she'd spent 20 minutes selecting the perfect book, asking questions about reading levels and whether the themes were appropriate. "It's for a friend's daughter," Elena had explained, and felt the lie settle uncomfortably. Lily wasn't exactly a friend. Was she? They'd spent one evening together, shared hot chocolate and crayons and conversation that had felt more real than most of Elena's carefully networked relationships. But when Lily had asked her to come, when those bright eyes had looked up with such hope and trust, Elena hadn't been able to imagine saying no. The drive to Jefferson Elementary took her through neighborhoods she rarely saw. The gleaming downtown corridors gave way to residential streets where people actually lived rather than just working and consuming. Houses with toys in the yards, corner stores with hand-painted signs, a park where early morning joggers circled a track while dog owners congregated near the fountain. This was the city too, Elena realized, the part that existed beyond boardrooms and high-rise penthouses. The part where Daniel and Lily lived, where Mrs. Chen ran her restaurant, where people measured wealth in community rather than quarterly earnings. Jefferson Elementary was a brick building that had probably been considered modern in the 1970s and now just looked tired. The playground equipment was worn but well maintained, the gardens clearly tended by volunteers, a hand-painted mural of reading children brightening one wall. Elena parked her Mercedes. She'd taken her own car instead of having Marcus drive her, wanting the illusion of normalcy, and felt suddenly, overwhelmingly out of place. What was she doing here? She didn't know anything about children, about schools, about this world of permission slips and playground politics. She could still leave, could text some excuse. Lily would be disappointed but would forget about her soon enough. Children were resilient that way, but she'd made a pinky promise. The front office was chaos barely contained. A harried secretary juggled phone calls while signing in visitors. A child sat in a chair outside what was presumably the principal's office,
swinging his legs and looking mutinous. Two teachers debated the scheduling of a field trip, the smell of industrial cleaner mixed with something that might have been lunch being prepared in a distant cafeteria. "I'm here for Read Aloud Week," Elena said when the secretary finally turned to her. "Room 7, Ms. Peterson's class?" The woman barely glanced at her, just pushed forward a visitor badge and a clipboard. "Sign in, stick the badge somewhere visible. Room 7 is down the main hall, third door on the left." Elena signed her name, just Elena Moore, no title, no company affiliation, and stuck the badge to her sweater. The hallway was lined with student artwork and achievement charts. She passed room 5, where someone was teaching the alphabet with an enthusiasm that seemed superhuman given the early hour. Room 6 appeared to be in the middle of a spirited debate about dinosaurs. And then there was room 7. Through the small window in the door, Elena could see controlled chaos. 20-some first graders sat in a circle on a rainbow-colored rug, while a woman in her 50s with wild curly hair and paint-stained jeans orchestrated what appeared to be a discussion about weather patterns. But Elena's eyes went immediately to Lily, who sat cross-legged in purple overalls, one hand raised eagerly while she practically vibrated with the effort of waiting to be called on. Elena knocked softly. 21 heads swiveled toward the door. Lily's face transformed into pure, incandescent joy. "Elena, you came!" She was up and running before her teacher could stop her, wrapping her arms around Elena's waist with the full-body enthusiasm of childhood. "I knew you'd come. I told everyone you were coming, and some people didn't believe me, but I knew." "Lily Hayes, we do not run in the classroom," Ms. Peterson said, but her tone was amused rather than stern. She approached Elena with an outstretched hand and a warm smile. "You must be Elena. Lily's been talking about you all week. I'm Jennifer Peterson." "It's lovely to meet you," Elena said, shaking her hand and feeling absurdly grateful for the normalcy of the greeting. "Thank you for having me. Thank you for coming. We always appreciate family and friends participating in Read Aloud Week." She raised her voice to address the class. "Everyone, this is Ms. Elena, Lily's friend. Let's show her our excellent first-grade manners." "Good morning, Ms. Elena," 20 voices chorused in imperfect unison. Elena felt something in her chest tighten and release. "Good morning." "Okay, readers," Ms. Peterson continued, "we're going to continue our weather discussion after our guests arrive and read to us. Lily, why don't you introduce Ms. Elena to everyone while we wait for the other readers?" Lily grabbed Elena's hand and pulled her toward the reading rug with absolute confidence. "Everyone, this is Elena, and she's my friend. We met at the coffee place and we colored together, and she's really nice and she promised to come read to us." A small boy with glasses raised his hand. "Is she your aunt?" "No, she's my friend. I said that already, Marcus." Elena tried not to flinch at the name. "But grown-ups can't be friends with kids," a girl with elaborate braids protested. "That's weird." "It's not weird," Lily insisted. "My daddy's a grown-up and he's my friend. And Elena is nice, so she's my friend too. You can be friends with anyone if you're nice to each other." The simple logic seemed to satisfy most of them, though a few still looked skeptical. Ms. Peterson rescued her. "Why don't you have a seat on the reading chair, Ms. Elena? We'll start in just a few minutes." The reading chair was an oversized armchair that had been reupholstered in bright patchwork fabric, positioned at the front of the rug so all the children could see. Elena sat, feeling the children's eyes on her with the frank assessment of the very young. "You're really pretty," one girl announced. "Like a princess." "Thank you," Elena said, unsure of the protocol. "Do you have a castle?" another child asked. "I live in an apartment." "Is it a big apartment?" "It's comfortable." "I bet it's huge," the girl with braids said knowingly. "You look rich. My mom says you can tell who's rich by their shoes, and your shoes are really nice even though they're not fancy." Elena glanced down at her $1,000 flats and bit back a smile. "Okay, readers, that's enough interrogation of our guest," Ms. Peterson intervened. "Let's get ready for story time." 2 more readers arrived, a grandfather with a well-worn copy of Corduroy and a young mother carrying The Day the Crayons Quit. They settled into folding chairs on either side of the reading chair, and Ms. Peterson organized the chaos of 21st graders into something resembling attentive rows on the carpet. Lily positioned herself directly in front of Elena, sitting so close their knees almost touched. The grandfather read first, his voice warm and practiced as he brought the story of the small bear to life. The children were entranced, and Elena found herself pulled into the story as well, the simple tale of wanting to belong, of finding home. The mother went next, giving each crayon a distinct voice that had the children giggling. When beige crayon complained about being called light brown, Elena thought about all the ways people minimized each other, made each other smaller to fit convenient categories. And then it was her turn. Elena opened The Wild Robot, painfully aware that she'd never read aloud to anyone, let alone to 26-year-olds whose attention spans were famously short. But as she began, in the ocean, a great ship was sinking. Something shifted. The children leaned forward. Lily's eyes went wide. Elena found herself doing voices without planning to, giving Roz the robot a mechanical precision that softened as the story progressed, making the gossipy geese sound appropriately silly. When Roz learned to be a mother to the gosling, to care for something beyond her programming, Elena's voice caught slightly. She looked up from the page and found every child riveted. This was nothing like presenting to a board. There were no hidden agendas here, no political maneuvering, just children who wanted to hear what happened next, who cared whether Roz would survive the winter, whether the gosling would learn to fly. When she finished the chapter, leaving them at a cliffhanger because she'd learned something about narrative tension in her years of presentations, the children erupted. What happens next? Does Roz make it? Will you come back and read more? Miss Peterson laughed. I think that means they liked it. Thank you, Ms. Elena, that was wonderful. Elena felt absurdly pleased, like she'd accomplished something more significant than any acquisition. Thank you for letting me participate. You're welcome back any time. Ms. Peterson meant it, Elena could tell. Now, readers, what do we say to our guests? Thank you for reading to us. The chorus was enthusiastic, if imperfect. As the children transitioned to their next activity, something involving math manipulatives and counting by fives, Lily attached herself to Elena's side. That was the best story, she declared. Will you finish it next time? I don't know if there will be a next time, sweetheart. But you have to come back. We need to know what happens to Roz. Miss Peterson approached, holding a small wrapped package. Lily insisted on bringing this for you. She made it herself. Lily thrust the package into Elena's hands, suddenly shy. It's just something small, to say thank you for coming. Elena unwrapped it carefully. Inside was a drawing, clearly Lily's work, showing 3 figures holding hands. One tall with yellow hair, presumably Elena. One medium-sized with dark hair, Daniel, and one small with wild curls and purple clothes, Lily herself. Above them, Lily had written in careful letters, My friends. Something in Elena's chest cracked clean through. This is beautiful, Lily. Thank you. You can put it on your fridge, Lily suggested. That's where important art goes. I will absolutely put it on my fridge. A knock on the door interrupted them. The secretary poked her head in. Miss Peterson, Mr. Hayes is here for Lily's early dismissal. Already? Oh my, time flies. Miss Peterson turned to Lily. Go get your backpack, sweetheart. Don't forget your lunchbox. Lily scurried off while Elena stood, unsure of the protocol. Early dismissal? Was Lily sick? Then Daniel walked in, and Elena's heart did something complicated. He looked tired, but then he'd looked tired at the cafe too. This seemed different, though. Stressed. He was wearing slacks and a button-down instead of his usual jeans, carrying his ever-present backpack and a garment bag. His eyes widened when he saw Elena. You actually came. I made a pinky promise, Elena said, and watched something warm cross his face. So you did. He looked like he wanted to say more, but Lily came barreling back, backpack bouncing. Daddy, did you know Elena read us the best story about a robot who learns to be a mom, even though robots aren't supposed to have feelings, but she did anyway, and it was amazing. Sounds pretty great, Lily Bean. He helped her into her backpack, checked that she had her lunchbox. Ready to go? Where are we going? Lily asked, though she seemed to know the answer. Remember? I have that big meeting across town. You're going to hang out in the conference room and draw very quietly while Daddy works. Oh yeah. Lily's enthusiasm dimmed slightly. The boring adult meeting.
Daniel's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. I know it's not fun, sweetheart, but Mrs. Martinez had a family emergency and couldn't watch you today. Elena understood immediately. This was his life, juggling childcare and work with no safety net, making do when things fell apart, bringing his daughter to meetings because what else could he do? The words were out before she could stop them. I could watch her. Three heads turned to stare at her. What? Daniel said. I could watch Lily this afternoon, if you need someone to. Elena felt herself committed now, the offer hanging in the air. I have some time before I need to be back at my office. We could go to the park, maybe get lunch, let you focus on your meeting. Elena, I can't ask you to... You're not asking. I'm offering. Daniel looked torn between relief and concern. You barely know us. I know Lily well enough to know she's wonderful, and I know you well enough to know you wouldn't accept if you had any other option. Elena met his eyes steadily. Let me help. Can I, Daddy? Please? Lily was already pulling on Elena's hand. We could go to the park with the good swings and maybe feed the ducks, and Elena probably hasn't even seen the ducks, and they're so cool. Daniel looked at his daughter, at Elena, back to his daughter. Elena could see the war in his expression, pride versus necessity, independence versus exhaustion. Are you sure? He asked Elena quietly. This meeting could run 3, maybe 4 hours. I'm sure. And you actually want to spend your Thursday afternoon with a 6-year-old? I can't think of anything I'd rather do, Elena said, and realized it was true. Daniel's shoulders sagged slightly, tension releasing. Okay, thank you. Really, Thank you. What time should I bring her back? The meeting's at the Grandview Hotel, Conference Room B. Should wrap up by 3. He pulled out his phone. Here, let me give you my number in case anything comes up or you need to reach me. They exchanged phones, programmed numbers. Elena stared at Daniel Hayes in her contacts, this freelance bookkeeper who'd somehow become important enough to have direct access to her personal number. Sarah would be appalled. Lily, you be good for Elena, Daniel said sternly. Best behavior. That means listening, using your manners, and no asking for ice cream before lunch. Daddy, I would never, Lily said with exaggerated innocence. Uh-huh. He kissed the top of her head. I mean it, Lily Bean. Ms. Elena is doing us a huge favor. I'll be perfect, like an angel. That's what worries me. But he was smiling. He looked at Elena. Thank you. Seriously. I owe you. You don't owe me anything. Go. Be brilliant at your meeting. After Daniel left, Ms. Peterson handed Elena a card. My personal number, just in case. And the school's number is on the visitor badge. Lily's lunch is in her backpack. I know she already ate the cookies, but there's a sandwich and fruit. How did you know she ate the cookies? Miss Peterson gave her a knowing look. Chocolate on her chin and guilty eyes. First grade tells on itself. Elena and Lily walked out of Jefferson Elementary hand in hand into sunshine that seemed to promise adventure. The Mercedes earned a low whistle from Lily. Whoa, this is your car? It is. It's really fancy. Can we put the windows down? Elena, who typically kept her car at precisely 72 degrees and never opened the windows, found herself saying yes. They drove to Riverside Park with the windows down and a children's playlist Lily found on Elena's phone blasting something about baby sharks. Elena caught herself singing along and didn't even care. The park was beautiful in the mid-morning light. Trees blazed with autumn color, their leaves carpeting the ground in red and gold. The playground was moderately busy. A few stay-at-home parents with toddlers, a nanny supervising twins, an elderly man reading on a bench. Lily made a beeline for the swings. Push me really high. Elena pushed, finding a rhythm that sent Lily soaring. The little girl's laughter was pure music, unself-conscious joy that made Elena's chest ache with something that might have been grief for her own lost childhood, or might have been gratitude for this moment. Higher, Lily demanded. I want to touch the sky. Hold on tight then. After swings came the slide, then the monkey bars where Lily demonstrated her prowess while Elena spotted her nervously. Then the sandbox, where they built an elaborate castle system that Lily populated with stick figure residents. This one's the queen, Lily announced, planting a stick with a leaf crown in the highest tower.
She's very wise and she makes sure everyone has enough food. That's a good queen. And this one's the dragon. But he's a nice dragon. He only breathes fire at bad guys. Elena helped construct a cave for the nice dragon, hyper aware that she was getting sand on her cashmere sweater and not caring even a little bit. Around noon, Lily's energy finally started to flag. I'm hungry. They found a sunny spot on the grass and shared Lily's lunch, a peanut butter and jelly sandwich cut into triangles, apple slices, and the remnants of what had been a bag of carrot sticks. Do you like my daddy? Lily asked suddenly, apropos of nothing. Elena nearly choked on her apple slice. What? My daddy. Do you like him? Of course I like him. He's very kind. No, I mean, do you like him? Like the way princesses like princes in stories. Oh. Lily, It's not that simple when you're a grown-up. Why not? If you like someone and they like you back, you should be together. That's how it works. Sometimes there are complications. Like what? How to explain to a 6-year-old that her father lived in a completely different world, that Elena's life was boardrooms and acquisitions and a kind of power that would crush the gentle honesty she'd found in Daniel's tired eyes. Like, sometimes people are very different, Elena tried. They want different things, have different lives. Lily considered this while chewing her sandwich. But you made Daddy smile. Like really smile, not the tired smile he does when he thinks I'm not looking. You made him smile like he used to before Mommy went away. The casual devastation of it, this child noticing her father's grief, measuring his happiness in smiles. Your daddy loves you very much, Elena said carefully. That makes him happy. I know, but he's also lonely sometimes. I can tell. Lily looked at Elena with eyes far too knowing for 6 years old. And you're lonely too. I could tell that first night. So maybe you could be lonely together, except then you wouldn't be lonely anymore? The logic was flawless and completely impossible. It's complicated, sweetheart. Grown-ups always say that when they're scared. Elena had negotiated with Fortune 500 CEOs, had stared down hostile board members, had built an empire through sheer force of will. But a 6-year-old had just called her scared and she had no defense, because Lily was right. They spent the afternoon at the park, then walked to a nearby bookstore where Elena bought Lily the rest of the Wild Robot series over her protests that it was too much. You need to know how the story ends, Elena insisted, and I want to know if you liked how I guessed it would go. At 2:30, Elena's phone rang. Sarah, of course. Ms. Moore, the Jenkins situation has escalated. He's threatening to pull his backing for the Taipei expansion entirely. We need you. Elena looked at Lily, who was examining a display of stuffed animals with serious concentration. Handle it, Sarah. Tell Jenkins I'll call him first thing tomorrow. But tomorrow, Sarah. She hung up before her assistant could protest further and found Lily holding a small, stuffed robot. Can I get this? With my allowance? I've been saving. How much allowance do you have? $3.50. The robot cost $18. I think this robot needs a home, Elena said, taking it to the counter. Consider it a thank you for being such excellent company today. Lily hugged the robot, then hugged Elena with equal enthusiasm. This is the best day. And Elena, who'd closed billion-dollar deals and conquered markets, thought this might be the best day she'd ever had too. They arrived at the Grandview Hotel at 10 to 3. Elena texted Daniel that they were in the lobby, then settled into an armchair with Lily beside her, the little girl chattering about all their adventures. When Daniel emerged at 3:15, he looked exhausted but pleased. His face brightened when he saw them. How did it go? Elena asked. I think I got the contract. They want to move forward with a full audit restructure. He noticed Lily clutching her robot. What's this? Elena bought it for me because I was good company, Lily announced. Lily? It's just a small thing, Elena interrupted. She really was excellent company. Best afternoon I've had in years. Daniel's expression was complicated, gratitude and discomfort, and something else Elena couldn't quite read. Thank you, he said quietly, for today, for all of it. It was my pleasure, truly. They stood in the hotel lobby, two people from completely different worlds, while Lily chattered about the Dragon Castle and the swings and the bookstore. Can we do it again? Lily asked. Can Elena come over for dinner? Daddy makes really good spaghetti, and we could watch a movie and… Lily, Elena's probably very busy. I'd love to, Elena heard herself say. Daniel's eyes met hers, searching. You don't have to. I know. I want to. Friday night, 6 o'clock? The apartment's on Maple with the red doors, Unit 3B. Elena pulled out her phone and added it to her calendar, moving a networking dinner that had been planned for months. Friday at 6, she confirmed. Should I bring anything? Just yourself, Daniel said, and smiled the real smile Lily had mentioned, the one that didn't look tired. Elena drove back to her office in a daze, arriving at 4 o'clock to find Sarah hovering with crisis reports and urgent decisions. She fielded them all efficiently, made the necessary calls, approved the required documents. But her mind was half somewhere else. At a park with swings and sandbox castles. At a school with rainbow rugs and picture books. At an apartment she'd never seen where a single father made spaghetti and probably let his daughter stay up too late watching movies. At 7 o'clock, Elena returned to her penthouse and did something she'd never done before. She took Lily's drawing, My Friends, and stuck it to her refrigerator with a magnet. It looked absurd there. One child's crayon drawing on the stainless steel of a kitchen that could have been featured in design magazines. It looked perfect. Elena ordered dinner from her usual place, opened her laptop to review the Taipei expansion one more time, and caught herself smiling at nothing. Friday couldn't come fast enough. Friday evening found Elena standing outside a building she would have driven past 1,000 times without noticing. The apartments on Maple Street were exactly as advertised. 3 stories of weathered brick with red doors, flower boxes that had seen better days, and a parking lot where her Mercedes looked conspicuously out of place between a rusted pickup and a sensible Honda. She'd changed clothes 4 times. The first outfit had been too formal, the second too casual in a way that screamed, trying too hard to look casual. The third made her look like she was going to a country club. She'd finally settled on dark jeans and a soft gray sweater, simple but nice, and even then she'd second-guessed herself the entire drive over. In her hands, she held a bouquet of flowers for the table and a bakery box containing a chocolate cake that had cost more than most people's weekly grocery budget. She'd agonized over whether bringing dessert was thoughtful or presumptuous, had actually called the bakery twice to change her order before finally settling on something classic and universally liked. Elena Moore, who'd presented to heads of state without breaking a sweat, was nervous about dinner with a first grader and her father. Unit 3B was on the 2nd floor, accessible via an exterior staircase that creaked under her feet. Before she could knock, the door flew open and Lily stood there in pajamas covered in cartoon dinosaurs, hair still damp from a bath. "You came! You came! I told Daddy you'd come, but he kept checking the window like he thought maybe you wouldn't." The words tumbled out at supersonic speed as Lily grabbed Elena's hand and pulled her inside. "Come see my room. I cleaned it all by myself. Well, Daddy helped a little bit, but mostly me." "Lily, let Elena at least get through the door," Daniel called from somewhere deeper in the apartment. He appeared a moment later, wearing jeans and a gray Henley, hair damp like his daughter's, and an expression that was equal parts apologetic and delighted. "Sorry, someone's been excited since she got home from school." "I made a countdown clock," Lily announced proudly. "With construction paper. Daddy said that was excessive, but I explained that excessive just means extra enthusiastic, and why wouldn't you be extra enthusiastic about friends coming to dinner?" Elena found herself laughing, genuinely laughing, in a way she couldn't remember doing in years. "A countdown clock sounds perfectly reasonable to me." The apartment was small but warm in a way her penthouse had never been. Mismatched furniture that looked comfortable rather than coordinated. Lily's artwork covering the refrigerator and most of one wall. Photographs everywhere. Lily as a baby, a woman who must have been her mother holding an infant. Lily and beaming at the camera. Daniel and his wife on what looked like their wedding day, young and hopeful and unaware of how brief their happiness would be. But there were newer photos, too. Daniel and Lily at a pumpkin patch. Lily in a school play wearing what appeared to be a paper bag costume. The two of them covered in flour in this very kitchen, laughing at some baking disaster. A life built from joy and loss and determination to keep moving forward. Your home is lovely, Elena said, meaning it. It's small, Daniel said, a hint of defensiveness in his tone. But it's close to Lily's school, and the rent's reasonable, and the superintendent actually fixes things when they break. It feels like a home, Elena said. That's worth more than space. Something in Daniel's expression softened. Can I take your coat? And these flowers are beautiful. You didn't have to. I wanted to. Elena handed over the bouquet and the bakery box. And I hope chocolate cake is okay. I wasn't sure what Lily liked. Chocolate cake? Lily's shriek could have shattered glass. That's my favorite. Daddy, Elena brought my favorite cake. She's basically the best person ever. Inside voice, Lily Bean, Daniel said, but he was grinning. And yes, chocolate cake is definitely okay. Thank you, Elena. He disappeared into the kitchen to find a vase while Lily gave Elena the grand tour. The living room with its worn couch and impressive collection of children's books. The small bathroom with rubber duckies lined up on the tub edge. Lily's room, painted lavender and covered in more artwork, stuffed animals, and the memory box she'd mentioned that first night. A decorated shoebox with her mother's scarf trailing from one corner. This is Mommy, Lily said matter-of-factly, pointing to a photo on her nightstand. A beautiful woman with Lily's wild curls and Daniel's kind eyes smiled at the camera, holding a tiny baby. She died when I was little, but Daddy says she's still with us in our hearts and our memories. Elena's throat tightened. She was very beautiful. You look like her. Everyone says that. Daddy says I have her smile but his stubborn chin. Lily climbed onto her bed, settling cross-legged. Do you miss your mommy? The question caught Elena off guard. My mother passed away when I was in college. Yes, I miss her sometimes. What was she like? Elena sat on the edge of Lily's bed, memories flooding back. She was strong, determined. She worked 2 jobs to make sure I could go to good schools. She always said education was the one thing nobody could take away from you. My daddy says that too, about education being important. Lily tilted her head. Did your mommy get to see you become successful at your job? No, she died before that. That's sad, but I bet she'd be really proud of you anyway. That's what Daddy says about my mommy, that even though she can't see me grow up, she'd be proud of who I'm becoming. Out of the mouths of children came wisdom that could break you open if you let it. I'm sure your daddy's right, Elena managed. Dinner's ready, Daniel called from the kitchen, saving Elena from having to navigate more emotional territory. The kitchen table was small, meant for 2, but Daniel had somehow made it work for 3. Mismatched plates and paper napkins, and a vase with Elena's flowers as the centerpiece. A pot of spaghetti sat on a trivet, steam still rising, alongside a bowl of salad and a basket of garlic bread that smelled like heaven. Nothing fancy, Daniel said, suddenly self-conscious. Just regular spaghetti. Lily won't eat it if I put too many vegetables in the sauce. I can taste them, Daddy, even when you chop them really small. It looks perfect, Elena said, and meant it. When was the last time someone had cooked for her? Actually stood in a kitchen and prepared food meant to be shared? She couldn't remember. They ate family style, passing dishes and reaching over each other in the cramped space. Lily narrated her entire school day in exhaustive detail, from the drama of who sat with whom at lunch to the injustice of having homework on a Friday. Daniel interjected occasionally with gentle corrections or requests for clarification, his hand occasionally ruffling Lily's hair with casual affection. Elena watched them, these 2 people who'd built a life from the wreckage of loss, and felt something in her chest that might have been envy, or might have been longing, or might have been the first stirrings of understanding that everything she'd built meant nothing if there was nobody to share it with. Elena, you're not eating much, Lily observed. Don't you like spaghetti? I love it. I'm just enjoying watching you 2. That's a weird thing to enjoy, but okay. Lily twirled more pasta onto her fork with the intense concentration of someone who hadn't quite mastered the technique. Daddy, tell Elena about the funny thing that happened at the grocery store. Lily, I don't think, please? It's really funny. Daniel sighed, but smiled. Fine. So, we're at the checkout yesterday and Lily sees a magazine with some celebrity on the cover. It was that lady who sings the songs about her feelings, Lily interrupted. Right, and Lily announces very loudly that she thinks the lady looks sad and probably needs a friend. She
did look sad. The problem is that the lady was standing right behind us in line. Elena's eyes widened. Oh no. Oh yes, the pop star currently topping the charts was buying toilet paper and frozen pizza at our local grocery store, and my daughter loudly proclaimed her emotional assessment. What happened? Elena asked, delighted. The lady laughed, Lily said proudly,
And she said I was very perceptive and gave me $5, which we immediately returned because we don't take money from strangers, Daniel added. But she wasn't a stranger, Daddy. She was famous. That's different. That's really not how that works, Lily Bean. Elena laughed so hard she had to set down her fork. The domestic absurdity of it, the casual way Daniel handled parenting curveballs, Lily's complete lack of self-consciousness. It was so far from her world of calculated interactions and strategic networking that it felt like visiting a foreign country. After dinner, they cleared the table together. Elena found herself at the sink doing dishes while Daniel dried and Lily put things away on tiptoe, stretching to reach cabinets. It was so normal, so beautifully mundane that Elena felt tears prick her eyes. You okay? Daniel asked quietly, while Lily was in the other room fetching plates for cake. Yes, this is just really nice. Thank you for having me. Thank you for coming, and for spending the afternoon with Lily yesterday. She hasn't stopped talking about it. I haven't stopped thinking about it either, Elena admitted. She's amazing, Daniel. You're doing an incredible job with her. He ducked his head, embarrassed. I'm just trying not to screw her up too badly. You're doing so much more than that. She's kind and curious and emotionally intelligent. That doesn't happen by accident. Daniel's eyes met hers, and something passed between them. Recognition, maybe, or understanding, or the beginning of something neither of them knew how to name. Lily's return with the cake plates broke the moment, and they moved to the living room for dessert and the promised movie. Lily chose an animated film about a girl who befriended a dragon, and they settled onto the couch, Lily in the middle, Elena and Daniel on either side. Somewhere around the movie's midpoint, Lily fell asleep, her head on Elena's shoulder, and her feet in Daniel's lap. Sorry, Daniel whispered. She was up late last night. I should get her to bed. Don't move her yet, Elena said. She looks comfortable. They sat in the flickering light of the television, a sleeping child between them, the movie playing to an audience that had stopped watching. Elena couldn't remember the last time she'd felt this peaceful, this present, like all the striving and climbing and conquering had been leading her away from something rather than toward it. Can I ask you something? Daniel's voice was soft, careful not to wake Lily. Of course. Why are you really here? I mean, I'm glad you are. Lily adores you already, and honestly, so do I. But you're different from us. Your car alone probably costs more than I make in a year. The way you carry yourself, the way you talk, you're someone important. So why are you spending Friday night eating spaghetti in a tiny apartment with a freelance bookkeeper and his kid? The question Elena had been dreading and expecting in equal measure. She could lie, could deflect, could maintain the fiction of just Elena for a little while longer. Instead, she chose honesty. Because for the first time in longer than I can remember, I feel like myself here. Not the person I've had to become to succeed, not the image I maintain for the world. Just me. And that's worth more than you know. Daniel absorbed this, his hand resting gently on Lily's ankle. Who are you, Elena? Really? Does it matter? Maybe not, but I'd like to know anyway. Elena took a breath, feeling like she was stepping off a cliff. My full name is Elena Moore. I'm the CEO of Meridian Holdings. If you Google me, you'll find about 1 million articles calling me things like the Ice Queen of Corporate America and the Woman Who Never Blinks. I'm worth around $8 billion, give or take a few hundred million depending on the market. I've built my entire adult life around being successful and powerful and untouchable. She paused, waiting for his reaction. Shock, disbelief. The shift that always happened when people learned who she was, how the dynamic changed, how she became a commodity rather than a person. Daniel was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, Okay. Okay? Yeah. Okay. He looked at her over Lily's sleeping form. Does that change the fact that you spent Thursday afternoon pushing my daughter on swings and buying her stuffed robots? Does it change the fact that you kept a pinky promise? Does it change the fact that you're sitting here right now with her drool on your probably very expensive sweater? Elena looked down. Sure enough, there was a small wet spot on her shoulder where Lily's mouth had gone slack in sleep. No, she said quietly. It doesn't change any of that. Then I don't care how much money you have or what your job title is. You're still just Elena, who made my daughter feel important and who looks at us like we matter. That's enough. Something in Elena's chest that had been clenched tight for years finally released. I should have told you sooner, she said. I liked being just Elena. Not Elena Moore, CEO. Just a person who could sit in a cafe and color with crayons and not have it be a calculated networking move. I get that. I do. Daniel shifted slightly, careful not to disturb Lily. But Elena, I need you to understand something. I can't be part of your world. I can barely keep up with my own. I've got a 6-year-old who needs stability and routine. I've got a business I'm trying to grow while being a full-time parent. I can't be some billionaire's... He struggled for the word. Charity case? Elena finished, hurt bleeding through. I was going to say project. Someone you swoop in to save because it makes you feel good about yourself. His tone wasn't cruel, just honest. If you're here because you're lonely and we're convenient, that's not fair to Lily. She's already lost one person who loved her. I can't let her get attached to someone who's just passing through. The words hit like physical blows, each one landing where it hurt most because they touched on fears Elena hadn't wanted to examine. Is that what you think this is? She asked. Some rich woman's whim? I don't know what to think. A week ago, you were a stranger in a cafe. Now you're in my living room telling me you're worth $8 billion. That's a lot to process. I'm not here because I pity you, Daniel. I'm here because your daughter saw me sitting alone and sad and decided I needed kindness. I'm here because you invited a stranger to share your hot chocolate instead of letting me sit in my misery. I'm here because for the first time in my adult life, I feel like someone sees me as a person instead of a bank account or a business opportunity or a threat to be neutralized. Elena's voice had risen slightly. Lily stirred, and they both froze. After a moment, she settled back into sleep, now with her thumb in her mouth. I should go, Elena said, carefully extracting herself from under Lily's weight. I don't want to cause problems. Elena, wait! But she was already standing, gathering her purse, her composure settling back into place like armor. This had been a mistake. She'd let herself believe in something that couldn't exist, had let herself want something beyond quarterly earnings and market dominance. Thank you for dinner, she said, her voice controlled and professional. The voice that closed deals and ended careers. It was lovely. Don't do that, Daniel said, standing too, Lily cradled in his arms. Don't go Ice Queen on me now. I'm not... You are. You. I can see it happening. The walls going back up, the distance being recalculated. He shifted Lily's weight, looking frustrated and tired and heartbreakingly honest. I didn't say this to push you away. I said it because I need to protect my daughter, but I also need to be honest with you. Can we talk about this? Really talk. Elena's hand was on the doorknob. One twist and she could leave, could return to the world that made sense, could forget about spaghetti dinners and sleeping children and the way Daniel Hayes made her feel both vulnerable and safe. She let go of the knob. Let me put her to bed, Daniel said. Please, don't go yet. Elena nodded, not trusting her voice. While Daniel was in Lily's room, Elena stood at the window overlooking Maple Street. Her Mercedes gleamed under a streetlight, surrounded by normal cars belonging to normal people living normal lives. She could see someone walking a dog, a couple returning home with grocery bags, a teenager shooting baskets in a driveway even though it was dark. Life. Simple, complicated, messy, beautiful life. Daniel returned, closing Lily's door softly behind him. She didn't even wake up when I changed her into proper pajamas. Kid could sleep through anything. She's exhausted from being enthusiastic, Elena said, attempting lightness. It's her superpower. Daniel moved to stand beside her at the window. Look, I'm sorry, that came out wrong. I'm not good at this. At what? At whatever this is. Dating? Friendship? I don't even know what to call it. He ran a hand through his hair, frustrated. I haven't done this since college. Since before Sarah. And even then, it was straightforward. We were both students, both broke, both figuring things out together. But this? You're you and I'm me, and there's this gap between us I don't know how to bridge. Maybe there doesn't need to be a bridge, Elena said. Maybe we just need to meet in the middle somehow. In the middle of what? Your world or mine? Neither. Both. A new space we build together. Elena turned to face him. I know this is complicated. I know my life comes with baggage and expectations, and probably a media circus if anyone finds out the Ice Queen is spending time with a single father in a rent-controlled apartment. But I also know that I've never felt more like myself than I do when I'm with you and Lily. That has to mean something. Daniel leaned against the window frame, studying her face. What do you want from this, Elena? From us? Honestly, I don't know. I've spent 20 years planning every move, calculating every risk, knowing exactly what I wanted and how to get it. But this? I have no idea. All I know is that I don't want to walk out that door and go back to a life where the highlight of my week is closing another acquisition. And if it doesn't work, if the worlds don't mesh and the gap is too wide, then at least I tried. At least I chose something for myself instead of just achieving the next milestone on some predetermined path. They stood in the dim light of the living room, the movie's credits rolling silently on the television. Elena could hear Lily's soft breathing from the bedroom, could smell the lingering scent of garlic bread and chocolate cake, could feel the warmth of this small apartment that held more life than her 8,000 square foot penthouse. I'm scared, Daniel admitted quietly. Not of you, but of what you represent. Change, risk, the possibility of Lily getting hurt, the possibility of me getting hurt again. I'm scared too, Elena confessed, of being vulnerable, of wanting something I might not be able to control or acquire or win, of failing at something that actually matters. So where does that leave us? Elena considered. Every instinct honed by years of business negotiations told her to walk away, to cut losses, to protect herself. But something newer, more fragile, insisted there was value here that couldn't be measured in profit margins. How about this, she said. We take it slow. We spend time together when it works for both of us. No pressure, no expectations beyond honesty. You protect Lily the way you need to, and I'll respect that. But we at least try to figure out if this, whatever this is, could be something real. Daniel thought about it, his expression unreadable. Then slowly, he nodded. Okay, we can try that. But Elena, I need you to understand, Lily comes first, always. If this starts to confuse her or hurt her in any way, we stop, no matter how much it hurts us. Deal? Deal. They shook hands, formal and absurd and somehow perfect. I should probably actually leave now, Elena said. It's late, and you have Lily in the morning. Saturday morning cartoons and pancakes. It's a whole production. That sounds wonderful. Daniel walked her to the door, and they stood in the hallway that smelled faintly of cooking spices and cleaning products. For what it's worth, Daniel said, I'm glad you came tonight. Lily was right. You made us both smile like we used to before everything got so hard. For what it's worth, this was the best Friday night I've had in years. Better than fancy galas and corporate events? Infinitely better. They hovered on the edge of something, a hug, a handshake, something more, before Elena stepped back. Good night, Daniel. Good night, Elena. She was halfway down the creaking stairs when he called after her. Hey, Elena. She turned. Next Friday, same time, if you want. A smile broke across her face, genuine and unstoppable. I'd like that. The drive home felt both longer and shorter than it should have. Elena's mind replayed the entire evening, the easy dinner conversation, Lily falling asleep against her shoulder, the difficult honesty of her conversation with Daniel, the fear and hope tangled together in her chest like a knot she couldn't untie. Back in her penthouse, the silence was oppressive. She made tea she didn't drink and opened her laptop to review the Taipei expansion but couldn't focus. Finally, she called Sarah, who answered on the second ring despite the late hour. Miss Moore, is everything all right?
I need you to clear my calendar for Saturday mornings, every Saturday, indefinitely. Silence. Then, carefully, may I ask what for? Personal time. I'm sorry, could you repeat that? You heard me correctly, Sarah. Block Saturday mornings. No meetings, no calls, no emergencies unless someone is literally dying. Of course. I'll take care of it. A pause. Miss Moore, is everything okay? You've been different this week. Elena looked at Lily's drawing on her refrigerator, at the chocolate cake box sitting on her counter, at her reflection in the dark window. Everything's better than okay, Sarah. I think I might actually be happy. After she hung up, Elena did something else she'd never done. She changed into pajamas at 10 o'clock instead of working until midnight. She made herself a cup of the hot chocolate Daniel had shown Net her how to prepare properly. Real melted chocolate, not powder, and curled up on her couch with the Wild Robot book she'd read to Lily's class. She read the whole thing cover to cover, tears sliding down her face as Roz learned to love and be loved in return, as the robot discovered that family wasn't about programming, but about choice. When she finally went to bed, Elena's last thought before sleep was of Lily's small hand in hers, and Daniel's tired smile, and the way belonging felt like coming home to a place she'd never been. For the first time in years, Elena Moore had no idea what came next, and for the first time in her life, she was okay with that. The next 6 weeks unfolded like a life Elena hadn't known she was allowed to want. Saturday mornings became sacred. She'd arrive at the apartment on Maple Street around 9, usually bearing coffee for Daniel and some treat for Lily, fresh donuts from the bakery near her penthouse, or fancy hot chocolate mix, or once, an entire box of art supplies that made Lily's eyes go wide as saucers. They'd make pancakes together, Daniel teaching Elena the precise heat and timing, while Lily narrated running commentary on their technique. Then they'd spend the morning doing whatever Lily's enthusiastic imagination demanded. Trips to the Children's Museum, walks along the river, elaborate craft projects that left glitter embedded in Elena's clothing for days. Friday nights were dinner at the apartment, a routine that felt more like home than Elena's penthouse ever had. She learned that Daniel hated mushrooms but would eat them for Lily's sake, that Lily would only eat vegetables if they were hiding in other foods, that both of them sang off-key during dishwashing and didn't care who heard. But it was the unexpected moments that lodged deepest in Elena's heart. Wednesday afternoon, when Lily's school called because she was sick, and Daniel was in the middle of a crucial client meeting, and Elena left her own board meeting without a second thought to pick up a feverish 6-year-old and rock her to sleep on the couch. The Sunday evening, when Daniel's laptop died mid-project, and Elena quietly had a new one delivered the next morning, top of the line but not ostentatiously so, with a note that just said, "Tools matter, E." The night Lily had a nightmare about losing her daddy too, and crawled into Elena's lap at dinner, seeking comfort with the unselfconscious trust of childhood. Elena's life split into 2 parallel streams. During the day, she was still Elena Moore, CEO, closing the Taipei expansion and navigating the Jenkins situation and making decisions that affected thousands of employees. But evenings and weekends belonged to a different Elena, one who knew all the words to Lily's favorite songs, who could correctly identify every teacher at Jefferson Elementary, who'd learned to braid hair through patient YouTube tutorials, and Lily's encouraging feedback. Sarah noticed the change immediately, but said nothing, just quietly adjusted schedules and ran interference when board members complained about Elena's sudden unavailability. The legal team whispered about their boss's mysterious personal life. Industry publications noted that the notoriously workaholic CEO seemed to have found work-life balance, though none could determine how or why. Elena didn't care what they said. For the first time in 20 years, she was building something that couldn't be measured in stock prices or profit margins. She was building a family. Then came the Tuesday in late November when everything nearly fell apart. Elena was in her office reviewing quarterly projections when Sarah knocked, her expression strange. "Miss Moore, there are some people here to see you. They don't have an appointment, but they're quite insistent." "Who are they?" "Parents from Jefferson Elementary. They say it's about Lily Hayes." Elena's blood went cold. "Send them in." 3 women entered, perfectly coiffed and designer-dressed, in the way that screamed corporate wives with nothing to do but volunteer. Elena recognized the type. She'd sat on charity boards with dozens of them, Women who wielded PTA positions like CEOs wielded quarterly reports. Ms. Moore, I'm Jennifer Carlson, PTA president at Jefferson. The lead woman extended a hand, her smile sharp. This is Madison Torres and Bethany Wright. We're on the school board. Elena shook hands, her mind racing. What can I do for you? We'll get right to the point. We're concerned about your involvement with the Hayes family. Jennifer settled into a chair without being invited, the other two flanking her like lieutenants. Specifically, your relationship with Daniel Hayes and his daughter. I'm not sure what you mean. Come now, Miss Moore. You're a public figure. People talk. You've been spending quite a bit of time with them. School visits, park outings, being listed as an emergency contact at the school. Some are wondering about your intentions. Elena felt rage building but kept her voice level. My intentions are to be a friend to a wonderful family. I'm not sure how that's anyone's concern. Madison leaned forward. Ms. Moore, we're not judging. We're actually here with an opportunity. Jefferson Elementary is severely underfunded. We need a new library, updated technology, better playground equipment. Someone with your resources could make a real difference. The implication hung in the air, ugly and transactional. You're suggesting I donate to the school in exchange for what, exactly? Permission to be friends with a child? We're suggesting, Bethany said smoothly, that someone of your stature associating so closely with the Hayes family, well, it raises questions. Daniel Hayes is a struggling single father. You're a billionaire. People wonder if perhaps there's an imbalance there, if perhaps you're taking advantage of their situation. The accusation was so absurd, so completely inverted from reality, that Elena actually laughed. Taking advantage? I'm the one who showed up at their door uninvited. Lily and Daniel have given me more than I could ever give them. That's lovely sentiment, but perception matters. Jennifer's smile didn't reach her eyes. A generous donation to the school would demonstrate your genuine commitment to the community. It would quiet concerns. And of course, we'd be happy to arrange for Lily to receive certain considerations. Better class placement, priority in school programs, that sort of thing. Elena stood. Get out of my office. The three women blinked, startled. I said, get out now. Miss Moore, I don't think you understand. No, you don't understand. What you're suggesting is corrupt and disgusting. You're trying to shake me down for money by threatening my relationship with a child. That's called extortion, and I have excellent lawyers. Jennifer stood too, her facade of politeness cracking. You can't just sweep into people's lives with your money and power and expect no consequences. Daniel Hayes can barely afford his rent. Lily wears hand-me-down clothes. You're playing house with people who can't possibly exist in your world. What happens when you get bored? When you move on to the next charity case? The words struck deep because they echoed Elena's own fears, the ones she'd wrestled with in the dark at 3 a.m. when she couldn't sleep for wondering if Daniel was right to be cautious. But then she thought of Lily's laugh, of Daniel's tired smile, of the way they'd made space for her in their life without asking for anything in return except honesty and presence. My relationship with the Hayes family is none of your business, Elena said, her voice ice. But I'll tell you what I will do. I'm going to make a very generous donation to Jefferson Elementary, not because you tried to extort it from me, but because Lily and every other child there deserves a good education. I'll work directly with Principal Morrison and the legitimate school board. Your little committee will have no say in how the money's used. You can't. I can, and I will. Now get out before I have security escort you. After they left, Elena sat at her desk, shaking with rage and hurt. She pulled out her phone and called Daniel. Elena, hey, is everything okay? The sound of his voice, concerned, warm, genuine, nearly broke her. Can we talk? Tonight, after Lily's in bed? Of course. What's wrong? I'll explain everything. I need to see you. She arrived at the apartment at 8:30 after Lily's bedtime. Daniel opened the door, took one look at her face, and pulled her into a hug without asking questions. Elena let herself be held, breathing in the scent of him, laundry detergent and coffee and home, until she felt steady enough to talk. They sat on the couch where she'd first held Lily while she slept, and Elena told him everything. The PTA ambush, the implications, the ugly transaction they'd proposed. I'm so sorry, she said when she finished.
This is exactly what you were worried about. My world bleeding into yours and causing problems.
Daniel was quiet for a long moment, processing. Then he said, "You sent them away." "Of course I sent them away." "You could have paid them, made this easier on yourself, but you didn't." "Why would I? What they were suggesting was wrong." "Elena," Daniel took her hands, "do you know how many people have tried to use Lily to get to resources over the years? How many concerned community members have suggested I'd be better off putting her in programs that cost money I don't have, signing her up for opportunities that require connections I can't provide? Everyone's got an opinion on how I should be raising her, what I should be giving her that I can't afford. That's horrible. That's reality when you're raising a kid alone on a tight budget. People assume you need saving, that you're doing it wrong because you're not doing it their way." He squeezed her hands. "But you've never once suggested I'm not enough. You've never tried to swoop in and fix things or save us from our terrible poverty or whatever narrative those women were spinning. You just showed up and kept showing up, not because we needed saving, but because you wanted to be here." Elena felt tears sliding down her face. "I do want to be here, more than anywhere else. I know, I can see it. Lily can see it. Hell, even Mrs. Chen noticed, and she notices everything." Daniel wiped away her tears with his thumb. "Those women don't matter. Their opinions don't matter. What matters is that you're here now, and you chose us over making your life easier. That tells me everything I need to know." "I'm still going to donate to the school," Elena said. "A lot. New library, new playground, updated technology, better teacher salaries, everything they need, and more. But I'm going to make sure it benefits every student equally. No special treatment for Lily." "She wouldn't want special treatment anyway. She just wants her friend Elena to keep reading her stories and pushing her on swings." They sat together in the quiet apartment, hands linked, while November rain started pattering against the windows. "Daniel?" "Yeah?" "I'm falling in love with you, both of you. And it terrifies me because I don't know how to do this. I've built empires, but I've never built a relationship. I've conquered markets, but I've never figured out how to just be with someone. And I'm scared I'll mess this up because it matters too much." Daniel turned to face her fully, his expression serious. "Elena, I need to tell you something too. I'm falling in love with you. Have been for weeks. Maybe since that first night when you let Lily interrogate you about your feelings and didn't run away. But I'm scared too. Scared of losing someone again. Scared of Lily losing someone again. Scared that one day you'll wake up and realize you've been slumming it with a broke single dad and you'll disappear back into your real life. This is my real life now. You and Lily, you're more real than anything I've built in 20 years. Then we're both scared together. Maybe that's okay. Maybe that means it matters." Elena leaned forward and kissed him, soft at first, tentative, like they were both afraid of breaking something precious. Then deeper, his hand cupping her face, her fingers tangling in his hair, both of them pouring weeks of careful restraint into this moment of finally letting go. When they broke apart, Daniel rested his forehead against hers. "Stay tonight. Not like that. Lily's here. And anyway, I think we should take this slow. But stay. Sleep on the couch, have breakfast with us in the morning, be here when Lily wakes up. Let her see that you're not going anywhere." Elena stayed. She woke up at 6 a.m. to find Lily standing beside the couch in her dinosaur pajamas, studying Elena with serious eyes. "Did you have a sleepover with Daddy?" "Sort of. I fell asleep on the couch and your daddy was too nice to wake me up." "Are you going to be my other parent now?" The question was so direct, so loaded with hope and fear and 6-year-old pragmatism that Elena's heart clenched. "Would you like that?" Lily climbed onto the couch, snuggling against Elena's side. "I think so. I mean, you already do parent stuff. You come to my school and you help with homework, and you make sure I eat vegetables even when I don't want to, and you make Daddy happy. He smiles more now, the real smiles, not the tired ones. Your daddy makes me happy too, so do you. Then I think you should be my other parent. We can have a family meeting about it if you want. That's what Daddy and I do when we have big decisions." 20 minutes later, the three of them sat around the kitchen table with pancakes and orange juice, holding what Lily had declared an official family meeting. "Okay, Lily said seriously, wielding a spatula like a gavel. This meeting is about if Elena should be part of our family officially. Daddy, you go first. Daniel tried not to smile. Well, I think Elena is already part of our family. She's been showing up, helping out, being someone we can count on. So officially making it official seems like a good idea. Elena? I think being part of this family would be the greatest honor of my life, Elena said, her voice thick with emotion. I vote yes, too, Lily announced. Motion passed. Elena is officially family. Now, we should celebrate with chocolate chips in our pancakes. Lily, that's not how family meetings, Daniel started. Fine. We vote on chocolate chips separately. All in favor? 3 hands went up.
After breakfast, while Lily was watching cartoons, Daniel pulled Elena aside. I need to tell you something about what happens next. With us. Elena's stomach tightened. Okay. I can't be your secret. I can't be the person you visit in your spare time but never acknowledge in public. Lily needs stability, needs to know this is real, and honestly, so do I. I would never want you to be a secret. Even if it means dealing with media attention, photographers, gossip, people picking apart our relationship, because once people know Elena Moore is dating a single dad from Maple Street, it's going to be a circus. Elena thought about the life she'd built so carefully, the image she'd maintained, the ice queen who never blinked, never showed weakness, never let anyone close enough to matter. That life felt like a costume she was tired of wearing. Let them talk, she said. I've spent 20 years worrying about what people think. I'm done. You and Lily are worth more than my reputation. Daniel kissed her, soft and sweet and full of promise. Okay then. We do this for real. All in. All in. The media storm hit exactly as predicted. 2 weeks later, a photograph surfaced of Elena at Lily's school winter concert, sitting between Daniel and Mrs. Chen, clapping enthusiastically while Lily belted out jingle bells off-key in a construction paper elf costume. The headlines ranged from curious to cruel. Ice Queen melts for mystery man and daughter. Billionaire Elena Moore's secret family. Moore slumming it with single dad? One particularly vicious tabloid implied she was having some kind of mental breakdown. The board of Meridian Holdings called an emergency meeting. Elena showed up prepared for a fight. This is unacceptable, Jenkins said before she'd even sat down. Your personal life is becoming a distraction. Shareholders are asking questions. About what? Whether I'm capable of running this company while also having a personal life? Men do it all the time. That's different, is it? Or is it just that you're uncomfortable seeing me as a complete person rather than a machine that generates profit? Elena looked around the table at faces she'd worked with for years. I've given 2 decades to this company. I've tripled our value, expanded into 6 new markets, and delivered consistent returns. My personal life doesn't change any of that. But the optics are that I'm a human being who fell in love. If that's too scandalous for you to handle, perhaps you're not the right people to be running a company in the modern era. A younger board member, Catherine Liu, spoke up. Actually, the consumer response has been overwhelmingly positive. Our social media engagement is up 40% since the story broke. People like seeing you as relatable. Relatable? Jenkins sputtered. She's a billionaire dating someone who probably makes minimum wage. He's a CPA with his own successful practice, Elena interrupted coldly. And his income is none of your business. Neither is my relationship. Now, are we going to discuss actual business, or am I wasting my time here? The meeting continued, tense but productive. Afterward, Catherine caught up with Elena in the hallway. That was impressive. I've never seen you that passionate about anything. I've never had anything this worth fighting for. For what it's worth, I think you're doing the right thing. Life's too short to spend it alone for appearance's sake. Catherine smiled. My wife and I have been together 15 years. Some people still say she married me for my money. We stopped caring what they thought about year 3. Elena returned to her office to find it filled with flowers, dozens of arrangements covering every surface. Sarah appeared in the doorway. They've been arriving all afternoon. The cards are on your desk. Elena flipped through them. Supportive messages from colleagues, congratulations from business contacts, a surprising note from a competitor saying, About damn time you joined the human race. And then, in Lily's careful handwriting on construction paper decorated with glitter hearts, Dear Elena, Daddy says people are being mean about you being our family. Those people are wrong, and also probably jealous because you're the best. Love, Lily. P.S. Can we have pizza for dinner Friday? Elena pressed the card to her chest and let herself cry for the first time in the office in her entire career. The spring festival at Jefferson Elementary was held on a Saturday in early May, 6 months after that first night at Common Grounds. The playground had been transformed with booths and games and the smell of popcorn and cotton candy. The new library, Elena's donation had been substantial enough to build an entirely new wing, was being officially dedicated. Elena stood with Daniel and Lily near the face painting booth, watching children run wild with the joy that came from too much sugar and not enough supervision. She'd dressed down for the occasion, jeans and a simple blouse, but she still felt overdressed compared to the other parents in their weekend casual. You okay? Daniel asked, taking her hand. More than okay. Lily, her face painted like a butterfly, tugged on Elena's other hand. Come on! The balloon toss is starting and we need 3 people for a team. They played the balloon toss and lost spectacularly when Elena caught the balloon but then accidentally popped it against her watch. They ate too much cotton candy and won a goldfish at the ring toss that Lily immediately named Princess Sparkle. They listened to the school choir perform and watched Lily beam with pride when Elena cheered louder than anyone else. During the library dedication, Principal Morrison gave a speech about community and generosity. She carefully avoided naming Elena specifically, as requested, but everyone knew. Parents who'd been suspicious 6 months ago now smiled and waved. Teachers who'd whispered thanked her openly. Even the PTA president, who'd been quietly removed from her position after the extortion attempt came to light, had the grace to look ashamed. After the ceremony, as the crowd dispersed toward the cake table, Daniel pulled Elena aside to a quiet corner near the new climbing structure. I need to ask you something. Elena's heart raced. Okay. We've been doing this for 6 months now, the dinners and the sleepovers and the family meetings with Lily wielding her spatula gavel, and it's been amazing, better than I ever thought possible. But? No but. Daniel smiled, reaching into his pocket. Just an and I want to keep doing it forever. He pulled out a small box and Elena's breath caught. This isn't some big production, Daniel said. No flash mob or skywriting or whatever rich people do. Just me asking you, because I can't imagine spending another day without knowing you're choosing this life with us. Elena Moore, will you marry me? The ring was simple, a slim band with a single diamond, beautiful in its understated elegance. Not the massive rock someone of her wealth might expect, but something chosen with thought and care and what little money Daniel had saved. It was perfect. Yes, Elena said through tears. Yes, absolutely yes. Lily, who'd apparently been watching from her hiding spot behind the slide, came running over. She said yes! Daddy, she said yes! I told you she would! You knew about this? Elena asked, laughing. Of course, we had a family meeting about it. Lily threw her arms around both of them. Now you're going to be my mom for real. Other parents were starting to notice the commotion. Elena saw phones coming out, knew this moment would be all over social media within the hour. Billionaire CEO getting engaged at a school festival to a man who'd probably pulled the ring box from the same pocket as his car keys. She didn't care. Daniel slipped the ring onto her finger, and it fit perfectly. Of course it did. He'd somehow gotten her size without her noticing, probably from that night she'd washed dishes at his apartment and taken off her other rings. I love you, Elena said. Both of you. More than I knew it was possible to love anyone. We love you too, Lily said solemnly. Like, so much. Infinity much. Infinity much, Elena agreed. The summer wedding took place in Riverside Park, near the playground where Elena had first pushed Lily on the swings. Small and intimate, just close friends and family, which in Elena's case meant Sarah and a handful of colleagues she actually liked, and in Daniel's case meant Mrs. Chen and her entire extended family, plus what seemed like every parent and teacher from Jefferson Elementary. Lily was the flower girl, taking her duties so seriously that she counted each petal she scattered to ensure equal distribution. She'd insisted on light-up sneakers with her purple dress because princesses can have good shoes and be practical. Elena wore a simple cream dress, nothing like the designer gown magazines assumed a billionaire bride would choose. Daniel wore a suit he'd bought with help from Mrs. Chen, who'd taken him to her cousin's shop and negotiated a family discount. They wrote their own vows. Daniel went first, his voice steady despite the emotion in his eyes. Elena, 6 months ago, you walked into our lives when we needed it most, even though we didn't know it. You saw Lily's sadness and chose kindness. You kept a pinky promise when you could have forgotten all about us. You've shown up, day after day, not because it was easy or convenient, but because you wanted to. You've taught me that it's okay to let someone in, okay to be vulnerable, okay to build something new without forgetting what came before. I promise to keep showing up for you too, to see you, all of you, not just the successful parts, but the scared parts, and the uncertain parts, and the parts that just want to eat chocolate cake for dinner sometimes. I promise to build a life with you that honors both our worlds and creates something entirely new. I promise to love you, today and every day after, infinity much. Elena's hands shook as she held Daniel's, as she looked at this man who'd given her everything she hadn't known she needed. Daniel, I've spent my entire adult life building things. Companies, wealth, a reputation. I thought that was enough. I thought success was the same as happiness, that achievement was the same as fulfillment. Then Lily saw me sitting alone and asked why no one was helping me. Then you invited a stranger to share your hot chocolate. And you showed me that all the things I'd built meant nothing if I had no one to share them with. You gave me permission to be Elena, not Elena Moore, CEO. To make pinky promises and color pictures and care about things that don't have a dollar value. You gave me a family. I promise to honor that gift every day. To show up, to be present, to choose this life we're building together even when it's hard. I promise to love Lily as fiercely as you do, to be the parent she deserves. And I promise to love you with everything I have, to bridge our worlds not by making you fit into mine, but by building a new world together. Infinity, much. Mrs. Chen officiated, having gotten ordained online specifically for this purpose. When she pronounced them married, Lily cheered so loudly that birds flew from nearby trees. The reception was held in common grounds, the cafe where it all began. The barista who'd made Elena that first perfect hot chocolate had stayed after hours to help set up. Long tables were covered in mismatched tablecloths, flowers from the farmer's market, and food from Mrs. Chen's restaurant. Elena's world and Daniel's world, mixing and merging and creating something new. Sarah gave a toast about how Elena had transformed from a workaholic boss into someone who left board meetings for six-year-olds and somehow became a better CEO in the process. Mrs. Chen told embarrassing stories about Daniel's early attempts at cooking for Lily. The Jefferson Elementary music teacher led a sing-along that had everyone butchering Can't Help Falling in Love. And Lily, microphone in hand, declared that this was the best day of her whole life, except maybe Christmas and her birthday, and that one time they went to the zoo. As the evening wound down, Elena found herself on the cafe's small patio with Daniel, Lily asleep in his arms with frosting still on her face. "Should we wake her up to go home?" Daniel asked. "Give her a few more minutes. She had a big day." They stood together in the warm May evening, a married couple with a sleeping child, watching the city lights flicker on as the sun set. "Have any regrets?" Daniel asked quietly. Elena thought about the life she'd left behind, the penthouse she'd sold to buy a house near Lily's school, the 80-hour work weeks she'd cut to 50 so she could make it to school concerts and soccer games, the reputation as the ice queen that had melted into something more complicated, more human. "Not even one," she said honestly. "You? Just that I didn't meet you sooner. Think of all the time we wasted being apart. We met exactly when we were supposed to, when we were both ready." Lily stirred, mumbling something about Princess Sparkle and wedding cake before settling back into sleep. "We should get her home," Elena said. "Our home." Our home. The words felt like magic. They drove through the city together, the three of them, toward the house they'd bought together. Not too big, not too small. With a yard for Lily and an office for Daniel, and a room Elena had converted to a library where she could read to Lily every night. a life built from kindness and pinky promises and the courage to choose love over loneliness. Elena Moore had conquered markets and built empires. But her greatest achievement wasn't measured in billions or quarterly returns. It was measured in Saturday morning pancakes and bedtime stories and a 6-year-old's laughter, in a love that had started with hot chocolate and transformed into forever, in finding her way home to people who saw her not for what she'd built, but for who she was. And that, Elena thought, as she carried a sleeping Lily to her bed while Daniel held her hand, was worth more than all the money in the world. Infinity much.